Hello, my name is Alex Gwynne. I'm a graphic designer and paper engineer with over a decade of experience designing paper toys and paper craft. In this video I'll be showing off my latest design, the Deep Diver dog, looking at the built model and then the paper engineering involved to create it. So without further delay, let's get lost in the fold. Part 1. The built model. So let's start by looking at the built model. As the name would suggest, the Deep Diver dog is a dog in a deep sea diving suit. It's kind of a mix between a submersible suit, and if we look into the portholes we can see the dog inside operating levers and a wheel to operate the mechanical arms of the suit. These arms protrude forward from the dodecahedron body and end in an inward angle to make it look like the arms are facing more forwards than they really are. One hand tightly clenches a wrench to help fix the deep sea pipelines, whilst the other features a mechanical claw with the dog paw detail in the middle. The arms are fairly simple and boxy, but if we come around to the back, things become a little more complicated and out of focus. The back of the model covers up as much of the exposed dodecahedron gaps as they can and then extend downwards to try and cover up the arm void that's left by their construction. This is helped by this cheeky little fold-in section that gives the arms a softer edge, helping to give the illusion of a curve whilst also filling in yet more of that arm void. Elsewhere on the back we have this beefy liquid oxygen tank. The 3D tank meets a 2D graphic on the back to make it look bigger than it really is, and also connect the 3D tank to the 2D graphics on the back of the model. The pipe that's connected to this tank goes around the side, under the arm, and then extends all the way onto the front before leading up towards the head. This covers 6 faces in all. The top of the tank is sliced off at an unusual angle to add to the asymmetry of the model. In fact, the entire tank sits at a strange angle from the back, but this is more so because of the way the paper engineering was used to add this to the template rather than for any aesthetic reasons. Oh, I should mention that the tank is filled with liquid oxygen, and so is the cockpit. It's inspired by that movie, what was the movie called? It's the one where there's I think it's the one where there's a big snake made of water with like a little man's face at the end. And anyway, it doesn't matter. In that they breathe liquid oxygen, and the idea is that because you're at such an extreme depth, any gas would just kind of implode, and so they have to breathe liquid oxygen because it can't be compressed in the same way. And so I thought it'd be cool to make the entire cockpit filled with liquid oxygen, and that's why it has this kind of blue tint to it, and on the top, that's why these air bubbles have kind of stuck to the top of the cockpit. Moving down we get to these buckled load-bearing legs. I really wanted to give the impression that the suit was heavy and under an immense amount of pressure, so having the legs squatting down with the pointed knee seemed the best way to go. The legs are attached with a single flipped face, so they're not stuck on very securely. However, by extending the dodecahedron chest piece down and adding this kind of crotch plate, it looks a lot more secure and a lot more connected to the legs than it otherwise would. Overall, the Deep Diver dog is a cheeky, chunky and squat model that's got a lot going on, especially considering the template is just a single piece. As I was showing off the build, you may have spotted a few mysterious oddities like these weird little ears surrounded by tabs and hiding a half-filled hole, or the way that the bottom plate of the model seems to be both sides of the paper at the same time. It's the back side and the front side of the print, but with no lip separating the two. So what's all that about? Well, buckle in as all will be explained as we look at the paper engineering and the build process that makes this model possible. Part 2. The paper engineering. To show off the building process, I've printed the model at an A3 scale on 200 GSM card. I'm going to be building the double-sided version, so it's printed on the front and on the back. This and other bonus printing files are available to Patreon supporters. I thought I'd share this. I tried printing the model earlier and it had this weird chunk of the design missing, and I was like, what happened there? And then I found this coming out of the printer. So I guess it printed on this and it pulled in a piece of A4 paper and just kind of kept going. I just thought I'd share that because it's such an unusual printing error. I mean, look at that. The design is a single piece and consists of compact sections that are connected by thin channels. So the template kind of arches around in this big banana shape. The template consists of 4 major sections. the body, the legs, the oxygen tank, and the back/internal structure. It's on this back/internal structure that we have a few awkward to cut out parts. Like around this strangely shaped detail. You have to cut around it, and then 2 tabs engulf it on either side. And then there's this thin connecting strip down at the bottom here. There's also these weird cutout notches in the arm. What's all that about? I mean, let's start building and we'll find out. And to do that, the first thing I need to do is fold across all of the dotted lines. Oh no, I missed a fold. I tend to go over all of my folds, especially on thicker card like this, with a craft knife, because that way when you're folding it you'll get this nice clean edge. Now that I've folded it across all of the dotted lines, we can start gluing things down. I'm going to be using just a cheap little brush along with some PVA glue, and I use a little clip here just that way if I need to put this down or anything I can just kind of stick it on there and it'll balance without getting glue on the table, because usually when I'm gluing I just stick the brush in my mouth, but I can't do that and film the video at the same time. Tabs 1 through 10 are all pretty standard, involving basic fold over sections that build the arms. Then tabs 7 and 10 fold the arms back upon the sides of the dodecahedron dome to force them into position. Tab 11 folds all the way around the back to glue into place. This turns that long thin connection bridge into an internal structure which will sit hidden inside of the dodecahedron dome, whilst tabs 12 and 13 bring the back section up and into position. So now you can see how this back section also creates this internal structure here, which is at the same angles as the dodecahedron will be inside. So this adds some structure. That bridge allowed this to be a singular piece by letting it wrap all the way around, and it just looks pretty neat. I'm sorry if the camera keeps freaking out. Look, my camera's not very good. I don't know what I'm doing on YouTube, okay? Tabs 14, 15 and 16 build the liquid oxygen tank, which is your standard boxy affairs. And that brings us back to the main face section. These flaps fold inwards without the need of a tab and line the top of the dome up for tabs 17 and 18, and they leave this little strange protrusion on the tippy top of the model, which will come into play later. Tabs 19 and 20 pull in the side and help connect tab 21 to the opposite side of the chest, finishing the dome and creating the crotch plate. Now, here's the best part of the model in my opinion. By this point you've built the dodecahedron dome and the back/internal structure, and it's time to bring them together. The back folds upwards towards tabs 22 to 25, which in turn hides away the internal structure snug inside the dome. This is where all of the weird and awkward tabs, notches and holes come into play. If there was just one tab to connect the back to the dome, it could easily slip or slide out of position. There's no way to get your finger inside either, to push against the force of the gluing down of the tab. So it could easily lead to crumpling of the model or misaligning the tab. I needed to find a way to lock these tabs into position as they're being glued down, and to do this I split the tabs into 2. One tab that connects to the back of the model, and a second tab that connects the back of the arms to the model. That weird arm notch from earlier? Now it blocks the tabs from being pushed too far across the face, locking them in place, and that weird yellow section from earlier? That's the exact distance between the tabs that was needed to align them on the template. Having the gap between the tabs was a necessity to line them up and lock them in place, but then the very structure that separates the tabs helps hide the newly formed gap, along with that arm notch that helps lock them into position. That weird protrusion on the tippy top also means that the tabs can't slide too far upwards. So they can't slide too far across, they can't slide too far upwards, they can only go exactly where they need to be. Okay, so I'm about to glue down tab 22 to illustrate this. You can see the weird little arm notch there. If I push down against that notch, the tab can't slide any further. It can only go to the exact place that it needs to be. And similarly, tab 23, if we push that down, it can't go anywhere further down because the arm notch is there, and it can't go anywhere further up because this protrusion's there. This is what connects tabs 22 to 25 and connects the back of the model to the front. It's funny, it's by far the most complicated part of the model, but it's the least interesting on the finished design. I guess if I'm doing my job right, you won't even notice that it's all that complicated at all. And this is what it looks like when they're glued in place. You can see both tabs, the texture lines up with what's beneath them, but more importantly we have this strange yellow section we cut out earlier, covering a hole that if I turn, you should be able to see. There's a hole that goes into the model, but the little arm notch helps hide it. In fact, it's actually quite hard to see, especially on this double-sided version of the template. But there is a hole there, and that serves a purpose as well. If needed be, you could get some tweezers in there to help you glue down the tabs with some internal pressure. However, you shouldn't really need them because of how this locking mechanism works. Now we're back to the standard build. Tabs 26 to 29 build the legs, completing the fourth major section, and now it's time to bring them all together. Tab 30 folds in against itself, which causes a huge change in part location. It moves the legs up towards the main body and shifts the oxygen tank out of the way. With larger tabs, like tab 30, I like to put the PVA glue on and then leave it a few minutes or a few seconds at least to get a bit more tacky, so that when I fold it over and glue, it's not slipping all over the place. Tabs 31 is a strange shape because it connects to the back of tabs 30, connecting the legs to the back of the internal section. Now there's a very specifically shaped gap left over, which tab 31 slides into, gluing the oxygen tank into place without it being glued on top of any other face, leaving a smooth bottom face and finishing the model. Phew, what a build. Now that we have one that's double-sided, we can compare it to the single-sided version of the release. I designed all of the Patreon toys to work as a single-sided template, and then release the back printing as an additional extra. It's meant for the die-hard builders that really want to improve things, but the designs are not made with that in mind. Here you can see what the back printing adds. It gives you less obvious arm voids, cleaner looking legs, and more coherent colour schemes. Part 3. The other stuff. Hey, whoa, I hope you liked the look of that paper toy. Did you know I've also been releasing other free paper toys recently? I made Sam from Death Stranding as well as a BB unit. And I've got 2 more free toys coming out in December, and hopefully, if I have time, maybe a special Christmas release as well. The last part of this video is mostly just going to be me kind of talking about stuff, doing some kind of homekeeping on the channel, letting everyone know where I've been, what I've been up to, and what to expect next year. The first thing I want to say is thank you to all my patrons. I know it may seem recently like I've been really focusing on Patreon only content, and that's completely true. I've been really enjoying this monthly exclusive toy concept, and really, I don't know, it really makes my day knowing that every month there's going to be a bunch of people who are really excited to build the toy, just as I'm really excited to release it, and just kind of having that small but dedicated audience that helps finance things like these videos is really nice. I couldn't have made this video if it wasn't for the Patreon people, because I had to buy a bunch of new HDMI cords and stuff like that for the building setup, so I really appreciate it. All the names on screen are my patrons. In fact, these are all the names that appeared on those Death Stranding toys, because I'm kind of in between graphics, as you may have noticed. The plan for 2020 is a slight rebrand, bringing the video graphics in line with the Patreon graphics. Sorry that I haven't been uploading much recently. Things have been pretty crazy. If you've been following me on Twitter, I was working 12-hour shifts and then collapsed from exhaustion in town the same day that I quit the job because I thought it was going to kill me. And I was only half right. But I'm all better now. And then I just went through a weird phase where I didn't feel comfortable in front of the camera anymore. But I'm really excited to get this video done. So who knows, maybe I'm back at it, baby. God, if you're still watching this, please just, I don't know, And tell your friends. I guess this is the other stuff. Hope you liked that toy. Bye. Well, I love you. Bye.